What's up, everybody? It's Greg Burge with Delta Financial, and this is the Be the Difference podcast. This podcast is all about making you a better person in your life and in your business with coaching on sales, leadership, mindset, marketing, everything under the sun when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And we bring on guest speakers. Today, I've got the honor and pleasure of welcoming Mr. Danny Navarro. What's up, Danny?
Hey, Greg, how are you? Thanks
I'm
for
doing
having me today.
I'm
Super
doing well,
excited.
man. Doing well. Thank you for coming on.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I'm excited about today's podcast. I think this is going to be a great story. I think you have a lot of value that's going to be offered. And for those of you that don't know Danny, Danny Navarro is a real estate agent, real estate investor, and a multi-family affordable housing developer in the Los Angeles area of Boyle Heights and South Central. He's a blessed husband and father to his firstborn daughter. He's passionate about giving back to the community, especially to the youth and adults, to inspire them and show them that anything is possible in life. He believes that with disciplined, deliberate strategies, we can always find or create opportunities to recalibrate no matter what challenges we're facing. In 2000, when he was 15, he began trafficking marijuana and methamphetamines. On October 14th, 2004, when he was 18 years old, DEA agents arrested him at his mother's house in Rosemead, California. Although it was a difficult experience, he is grateful for the lessons that he learned and the blessings he received. And looking back, he can see that it was all part of God's plan. He's thankful for the experience he had in prison because in 2016, he was sentenced to serve a mandatory minimum of 120 months for conspiracy to disturb methamphetamine. Or I think that's probably meant to be distribute. While incarcerated, he was inspired by leaders like Napoleon Hill, Nelson Mandela, Robert Greene, Art of War, Viktor Frankl, Tony Robbins, Les Brown, Zig Ziglar, and others to become a better person. Working out and reading were his outlets to stay focused and positive. He desired a life outside the barbed wire fences and concrete walls, and he chose to focus on how he could use his time to develop value, skills, and become a productive member of society. Prison taught him valuable lessons, and he's grateful for the experience. What is up? That's a great story, brother.
Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go. I have a feeling we're going to talk a lot about mindset and a lot about like making changes and hitting rock bottom, coming back from the ashes. I love it.
That's it. That's it. Definitely.
So, how long? Let's talk about your prison experience. How long did you spend in prison?
Close to 8.5 years.
Okay. 8.5 years.
2018 to 26, 27, roughly.
Okay. Okay. And when you got out, what was that like? Talk about that transition, because that was probably just a crazy transition.
Fucking hard. It was super hard, man. It was really hard. 2012, I was released. January 2012. I had to go. I had about 8 hours to get to El Monte to go to a halfway house. So just prepping for that, like just being free, going in as a young man and coming out as a young adult. I was just really. It was very, very, very difficult. It felt like a lot was thrown at me at once, right? Like I was rushing. First, I went to go see my mother, see my family, and honestly, Greg, that was even hard. I was overwhelmed with the amount of people going back home, experiencing just everybody seeing me all at once, and it was just way too much for me that day. So definitely that was my day. Like literally, I couldn't sleep the night before, and I got up super early to get out, and then I waited for my mother to pick me up at the bus station, and I had about 8 hours to get to this that I had to go do another I had to do 6 months at a halfway house, so it was still like sort of jail, just just outside.
Yeah. And I bet you that you're talking about how difficult it was, spending all the time with the family. It's probably just a flood of emotions, right? That you
huge emotions. And like that day, Greg, is when I walked to the house, right where we were at. I mentioned to my mom, like, look at, I don't want to see anybody. I told her like weeks before, I'm like, look at no parties, no nothing. Look, I just want to come out. I just want to see you guys. And then I just want to go. I just want to go. I'll go to the halfway house and do the 6 months and then come out. One thing I don't remember though is that I wanted a frappuccino, caramel macchiato from Starbucks. That was like the first thing that I want to go get, and a pizza. I wanted a pizza, and but going fast forward, going back to the house, right? There's all these people here, and everyone's excited, and I walk and I greet everybody, and I walk into the house that I lived at, and the same house that I got incarcerated at, and it was pretty interesting because nothing in the house changed, like everything, like the photos were still there.
Yeah.
Uh, there was just stuff in the house that didn't seem like it even moved, right? And I went to my room, and like the only thing that I was like, damn, like the room looks the same, right? And I got a really bad panic attack, and I started like getting anxiety, and I just had to sit down, and everyone was just everybody was a little shocked because everything was just moving so quickly, right? Like,
Mhm.
my little brothers, they were babies, and then they were adults. They were working on the cars. They were people looked a lot older, maybe a little bit heavier. Um, and all that was just going through my head, and everybody was just like, is he okay? Like, is he not happy? Does he not want us here? And it wasn't them. It was just me that it was just too much for me at that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate
Mm.
in terms of like being away. So like when I got back from, and this is the deployment. So it's a 1 year
Mhm.
deployment. It's not 8 years in
Yeah,
prison. So not exactly the same thing, believe me.
yeah.
But when you get back from deployment and and it's so weird, it's almost surreal because you're so used to, I was so used to being in the desert. I was so used to like not being able to go places. I was so used to being almost like locked down into one
Mhm,
location.
mhm,
And it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, we need something. It's like, oh, we can go to Walmart. It's like that's crazy. And it's
mhm,
so
mhm.
weird, like coming back. Like it's definitely an adjustment period when you come back and you see everything and everything's kind of same. It's like it's very strange.
Yeah, and you know what? It's very similar, um, from from your experience to mine, because we're away, right? And it's like inside is it's not all similar, but there's a lot of stuff that is similar, like discipline and waking up, beds made, everything up early, all this stuff, the food, the people you hang around with, like all that's very similar. And then we both struggle, and so many people coming out of the service, they struggle coming out, and they have the same issues that I had, and I see it. I'm aware of it, and it's very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, how was it like trying to stay focused and disciplined while being incarcerated and not giving into the negative thoughts, negative
Mhm,
feelings,
mhm.
more drugs or negative behaviors while you're in there.
Um, well, no, number one, it's obviously, the blessings come from above.
Mhm,
I mean, yeah, I made choices and decisions to how I navigated to do my prison sentence. But at the end of the day, like, I was always blessed and been very fortunate to be the places where I was at, and to sort of being able to navigate towards stuff in there to be able to come out after 8.5 years and not 15 years,
mhm,
and getting more time, right. But I want to say 2 years from when I got sentenced in 2000. I got sentenced in 2004, no, 2005. It took me about 16 months to get sentenced.
mhm.
And then I was finally, I 2000. I think I went when I first went to the first prison was like 2006. So it was about a good 2 years, where I was still, I just wasn't really ready for change, I would say. I wasn't really 100% committed in really trying to change my life and make a difference. But it was after I picked up a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill,
Yep.
the all-time famous, like out of all books, right? Like out of all books, and mind me, like I don't even read. I mean, I read it. I was reading in prison, right? But in jail, and before I got sentenced, but prior to getting the sentence, I never read. I didn't even know how to read, honestly. I never went to school. So um, picked up that book, right? Somebody gave me the book, and I was thinking Grow Rich, and they're like, hey, read this book. Stop reading the junk that I was reading, which was like novels and sex books and all this stuff, right? And that book changed my life, and that was the turning point that made me want to read hundreds of other books, and want to learn and grow. And it was just, I was fascinated and just hungry for this information. And that's when I decided I got to come out here better than how I came in. And every day that was my goal, to come out better every single day.
Yeah. That's so powerful. And I was when I started reading, um, I did 75 hard, back in 2021.
Mhm.
And that one of the things on that is that you got to read every day, right?
Yes.
And so I started reading every day. And before that, it's not that I mean, I'd read multiple times, but I just wasn't consistent. And like I had not finished a book except for maybe one or two since I graduated college. Like, and that's it. And
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
that was the first book that I read and completely changed everything. And I was like, dude, this is a good ass book. And it does
Hmm.
same thing. Now I've got a love for reading. I read every single day. And I'm same. That's something that I always encourage people to do is start reading every day.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
It is such a magnificent activity, and it will change your life. Out of and
Yes.
everything, it'll change your life.
Yes. 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 Yeah. And that it was a game changer, and I just kept reading and reading and growing and learning, and like it was the biggest blessing, picking
Mhm.
up that book. And to this day, I share that book with kids in juvenile halls and young adults that are, from just maybe from 12 to 18, and I share that book because that was just such a huge impact for me.
Man, that's amazing. And so you go in and you do it seems like volunteering to go talk to kids that
Hmm.
are troubled or in juvenile
Yep.
detention facilities in order to help
Hmm.
them. Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, Danny.
Yeah. So I started doing that, I think maybe in, I want to say 2015, 16, and I really got really heavy into it, and I was doing it all the way to like 2019, right before COVID,
Mm,
and then, but the intention and the goal has always been, just if I can just go in there and change one kid's life, that's it. Like that's all that matters. Like, and they're not, I'm like, they're not gonna remember me, they're not gonna know who I am, but I want to be that guy with like, hey, there's this guy, I don't know what else, I was doing some time in juvenile hall, and fucking this book changed my life, right? And I'm doing this because of that. And it's just like that's always been like my intention. And I used to go back in there, and I'll be walking down the tier, and then they'll be like, hey dude, I got your book, I'm reading it. And they'll be like in their cell, and or I'll peek in the cell, see their book, and I'm like, the most important time is to find yourself is in the darkest place,
yeah,
right? And no better way. I mean, you're in a, you're, first of all, you're a kid, right? I don't know, 14, 15, 16, they're facing some time, and they don't got shit to do, so they're going to pick up the book, they're going to read the book, they have nothing else to do.
yeah,
And it's a blessing, because like I go in there, and they're like, hey, I read your book, or hey, what's up, man? And they, thanks for giving me this book. Like, it's just, and then opposite too, like, hey, I read your book the last time I'm back in here. And you can't change everybody, but it's just, it's amazing how much of an impact I've done inside those juvenile halls, because um, every day is always, it's like, I want to become the best me, right? The best version of myself,
yeah,
and I want to be able to, like, well, who would I want to look up to, right? And to me, it's like, these kids, they, I wish I would have had that when I was 15, 16. Not that I regret anything I did. I'm happy that I went through what I went through, but it would have been amazing to have somebody in my life at that age, because life could have been a little different.
yeah. So
So
you spent your 8 years in prison. You come out. You have that very stressful and anxiety ridden reunion with the family, and then you're off to the halfway house for 6 months. How was that experience at the halfway house?
so That was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. Normally you can get out for like a month, like out, and you'll do the additional 5 months at your house, like on house arrest or something. But for me, I had nowhere to go. I didn't want to go back to the house that I went the first day. I'm like, there's no way I'm going back. Um, there's no way. So I had some relatives that I got offered to go to their house, but they didn't want to let me. They really made it really hard and difficult for me, and it made me realize how much it messed up how the systems created, because we get out, we go to this halfway house for 6 months, and it's just like prison. Like you're not doing anything. They don't really help you. They say they help you, but they don't. Like they put a bunch of rules on you, and they're telling you to go out there and look for a job and better, but it's like there's no support, there's no help. Like it's so bad. These guys are coming out doing 10, 20, 30 years, they're stuck in a halfway house, and like how do you expect them to do something, right? And without my support system and my mindset that I created in prison, I wouldn't have been able to get through it. And and so it was the staff sucked. They would go make you look for a job, and it's like, well, where do I go? They send you to these centers, and you're like, well, I don't know how to do an email. Like I didn't even know how to type. I didn't know how to do an email, so I had my brother do an email. Well, like, well, how do I do a resume? Like I I mean, I made some in prison, but like this is real shit now, right? Like this is real life. How do you apply? How do you upload them and all that? So a lot of challenges. Going out to dinners, I didn't know how to order a menu. I didn't know how to present myself at the dinner table. I didn't know how to date. I didn't know how to ride the bus. I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't have an ID. Like doing all that day to day stuff was extremely tough for me, because everything had a like I had to tell everybody where I was going first of all, and then it's like you had to give them a certain time of when you're going to get there. You had to call them when you got there. Like it was just a huge mess, and it was overwhelming and stressful, and I didn't understand this, right? Because it's like I was doing all this time, and I'm like, man, like how do people come back to prison? Like how stupid are you to come back to prison? But well, when I got out, I realized how easy it was, because it's so hard. It was so hard at that time, and people just say, you know what, I'm gonna give up and say, let me just go back to what I'm good at, which is picking up some, selling drugs or whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
And it was I was 27 in the physical world, and I was probably 18 in my head, put it that way.
Yeah.
So that's how I can.
18 without a support structure, without your parents there to be like, you got to do this, you got to do that, blah, 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 like guiding
Mhm,
you and giving you that kind of consultation, coaching, mentoring to get you through everything and
mhm,
showing you the path. Oh,
mhm.
absolutely. It's almost like
Yeah,
being born again.
it really felt like that. Really, like it really did. Like I felt like I was barely starting to live my life. I mean, I went in as a kid.
That's
You know,
crazy.
yeah, I didn't know how to text. Like it's like I didn't know what Instagram was. I mean, Facebook, a little bit of Facebook, but like I didn't know any of
Yeah, this is fascinating because I could
that.
imagining that. I'm just like, dude, that's almost like seeing the world for the first time with like as an adult. Oh man, that is so crazy.
And then you're right, like I'm like, just to paint the picture, right? You're going out places and you're doing things, and like life is like moving fast, like cars, people, like, and you're like, what the fuck? Like you're used to being and it's you had your routine. You get up, you go work out, you go eat breakfast, you come back to child, you go to work. It was very like a routine, and to come out into this crazy world that like it was at the time, right? Like it was just like too much. It would be it was just too much at once for myself, for coming out and doing the time that I did. And it was a lot of emotions.
Yeah,
It was crazy.
that's a lot to pack on and deal with.
Mhm.
A lot of change and transition.
And remember too, like I mean, obviously we're changing. We're constantly revolving, right? But like that time from 2004 to 12 was a big change, at least for me,
Yeah,
right? Like it's like the phones, the technology. Like there was a big, a lot happened
yeah,
over those years.
yeah. Yeah, like iPhone didn't even exist until
No
it did when
iPhones.
it did when you got out.
No, yeah, I was on Nextel, right? Like I was on those like Nextel phones on the
Yeah.
church and stuff.
But
Yeah.
when you went in, bro, they had like Snake on. That was the game on the phone was Snake.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
And you were like, and like the way that you would text, it was just like it was just the 9, 10 buttons. That was it. Like that's so crazy,
Yeah,
man.
I didn't know how to email, I didn't know how to text, I didn't know how to do a lot of things. It's crazy. It was a
Man,
lot.
that's such a wild transition. It's so quick. I can see how that would be so stressful and just jarring,
Hmm.
that people would be like, nah, man, I just want to go back. Like, cause you're just, what are you
It's
used
easy.
to in life?
Yeah, it exactly, and it's easier to go back,
Yeah.
and doing what you're comfortable doing, what you know how to do, versus
Yeah.
trying to do something different.
That is,
And it goes back to like the readings, the what I did to better myself and to work on my mindset. Because if it wasn't for that, like, yeah, there's a lot of support system when I got out. I had my mom, I had my family, but without that, I would not be who I am today. With that, it just wouldn't, like, there's no
yeah.
way
Yeah.
at all.
I mean, that's great that you were able to make it through and that you had
Mm,
done the work necessary before getting out that helped you to find that success, to like
mm,
push through those challenges in that change. Change is probably the one thing that people avoid the most. I mean, it's inevitable, it's
correct.
gonna happen, but
Hmm.
people don't like change.
It's not comfortable.
It's not. It's challenging.
It's
So,
challenging. Yeah.
um, so you get through the halfway house. What got you started into real estate? How did you make that transition?
Well, I've always been ambitious. I always been hungry. I
Mhm.
always been a leader. I was just in the wrong game, right? Like I was just in the dope game, and I was around the negative mentors versus the positive mentors. That's how I like the easiest way to relate it, right? So I've always been this guy that was always hustling, from a candy bar at school, or a bike, a toy, or something like that, to you know doing other stuff, and eventually just doing drugs and everything like that. So when I was incarcerated, I had a good friend of mine that was very successful when he was prior to going to prison. And so he used to like educate me about like what he was doing. He was building houses. He was flipping houses, building houses. He was involved in mortgages and real estate. And so he used to tell me, like, number one, right, all the money you can make is what he used to tell me, right? So it's like, all right, well, it's like I knew I wanted to do something. I wanted to do some kind of business. I didn't know what type of business. So I'm like, well, real estate seems pretty cool, pretty fun, right? It's like real estate, and then like, and also, Greg, like I didn't know what real estate was. Like you tell me what I do real estate. Well, what's real estate? Like, right? That's like, there's so many different avenues that go down real estate. So I was very naive, like, well, I'm gonna get into real estate, and then I didn't realize there was so much different parts. So um, I got my I 2015. In 2014, I applied for my real estate license, and I got denied 3 times. On the 2 times, they said they didn't want anybody with a felony to have a real estate license, right? And top it off on federal probation. I did 5 years on federal probation. Not a day short, not a day over. 5 years straight. I did a close to 13-year sentence, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
I fought, and I knew I had a desire to change. I knew everything I was doing was the right way, and I didn't give up, and I just kept going at it. And that third time, I had a court hearing with the commissioner, for the real estate commissioner, and I had to state my case and share my story. And it took about felt all day, like over 4 or 5 hours of in there.
Wow.
Long, long, long day, a lot of emotions, and we after that, he's like, okay, well, you guys you'll get something in the mail, right? And it's like, okay, well, still don't know if I'm going to get my license. And it's like this guy that, like, I came out hungry. I'm like ambitious. Like everyone around me like was slow, right? Like after once I got set, I got up to speed. I'm like, what are you doing? Like you need to get up. Like you get what are you wasting your time for? Like there was no time to waste. Like
Yeah.
I was just on it, like just driven, hungry, like like I was up early, just hungry to succeed, right? And so I felt like a guy, like this really good baseball player on the bench that couldn't play. I was
Yeah.
better than everyone else, right? I was better, but I couldn't play. And then so 2015, I got my real estate license, and then I reached out to a buddy of mine that I met through Instagram, and that he's a buddy now, right? But in back prior to that, I met him on Instagram, and he gave me an opportunity to work with him and sell real estate. And I still didn't really know. Like I'm like, well, what do you do? Like it's just I was so like just didn't know any better. Like and that's how I got into real estate. That's how it all started.
So I want to park here for a second, and I want to talk about. So you got denied twice,
Hmm.
and so the first time you get denied is like, hey, we're not having any felons. Most people would give up then. A
Correct.
large percentage would be like, well, I'm a felon, like throw their hands in the air and like can't be done. Then you're like, no, man, I got a feeling about this. I want it. I want it. Like I'm gonna
Hmm.
apply again. You apply again.
Exactly.
You get denied a second time. Now,
Correct.
if for those people that were like, you know what, maybe it's a fluke, now most of those people are also quitting during that time frame. And you're like, no, no, I'm not giving up. And it's that persistence.
Hmm.
That's what makes the 1% the 1%, is that
Correct.
they know what they want and they're not going to quit and they're going to keep going after it and they're going to keep going from every angle. Like, hey, if I can't do it this way, I'm going to do it this way. Right. And
Correct.
you're just
Correct.
like, I'm getting my license one way or
Hmm.
another. I'm getting my
Hmm.
license. Right. This is what I want to do.
Correct. Correct.
And for those of you listening, realize that whatever it is that you want to do, if you are persistent and you are moving forward towards it every single day, I don't care who you are, I don't care what your past circumstances are, you can accomplish it. No matter if you've been to prison like Danny here, or you have something else that you feel is holding you back in your life, you can 1,000% accomplish it. It's all up to you in like your ability to just not quit and keep moving forward. And I would also say that that's probably why you found success as a real estate agent. Like you didn't know what you're doing, you just knew you wanted to do it, but you had to work. You had to do some work and you had to go through some challenges in order to get that license. You probably
For sure.
cherish it a lot more than most other real estate agents that just is almost like handed to them. And then they're
Correct.
probably sitting around like, well, I got my license, and then they like never sell. Like I'm sure there's a bunch of people like that that are. In fact, I know of some that are. Yeah, I'm a real estate agent. It's like, dude, you never sell anything.
Exactly. Exactly.
So talk about how you got you jumped in with the guy that you met on Instagram, the person you met on Instagram, and how did you start to find that success? When was that first sale? What was that like? Like, let's break this
It
down.
it was so the first sale was like super, like, so it was an open house, right? I got a lead, right? Got a client, and it ended up being like three sales in one, because we double ended his listing and he had to buy an upleg, right?
Uh,
And that was like the first sale, but it happened like in 90 days. Like it happened right away. Like the 90 day, that 90-day mark, they say like, hey, 90 days you'll get your deal, and that's what it was. But it was a lot of work though. Like it was 7 days a week. Like there was no question. It was I was cold calling, door knocking. If I wasn't cold calling, door knocking, I was doing open houses. If I would sit at open houses. I would. It's just my aunt recently, well, not recently, a while back, she sent me a picture of my shoes, right? And she was like, "Yeah, you remember that you sent me this picture?" And I'm like, "Fuck, I don't even remember." And it was my shoes that were the thread was gone from door knocking, because I used to door knock every
yeah.
day. they tell me go door knock. I'm like, okay, so 50, $100, whatever it is. And but it was that grit, it was that hunger. It's like it was easy. The work wasn't hard. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, this is easy. It's easy. It's not hard.
Yeah. It is easy. And
It
that's
is
the
easy.
problem. That's the problem with
Mhm.
sales is that people aren't used to having like real challenges in their life.
Yeah, yeah.
They're just not
Eh,
dude, it's like, okay, I spent 8 years in prison, like, that was hard. This
mm,
is, like, comparatively not hard. It's not hard.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, and,
Most people haven't
and
experienced that kinda stuff.
and then there was this little gap right of time that where I was doing construction, I was doing trucking, I worked at Costco. So those are like some of them were very physical labor work. So
Yeah,
um and I remember just get up super early, come home late, and I would go to sleep like there was really no life because I was like physically tired. So
yeah,
um not only so when I jumped into real estate, I'm like, this is like not even like it's physical, but it's more mental, mentally exhausting. And but it was always easy, and I learned to embrace the work, embrace the hustle, embrace everything.
that's a good point because, when I was in college, I used to do construction, and
Hmm.
I did construction a little bit in high school, but then I got into at this when I first started college, I started doing drywalling. And,
Hmm.
I used to be able to drywall an entire house, but dude,
uh,
slinging drywall is a pain, bro. And then going in
mm-hmm.
and doing all the mudding and doing all the joints and everything, bro, that sucks, especially in the winter when there's no insul or the insulation's in there, but there's like no windows, there's no doors, house is freezing, and you're sitting there just slinging drywall, bro. Those sheets get
Yeah.
real heavy. and
Yep.
and you're like freezing. So like thinking back to it, I'm like, yeah, I used to do that for years.
It's
And it's really intensive. And then
it
like I
is.
would come home just covered in drywall dust, and I would have drywall dust like in my eyes, in my ears, like up my nose, everywhere. It was all over my like in my cuticles, my fingernails, like everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's
Yeah,
that's that's
it's
crazy.
yeah,
And like
it's
thinking
it.
about that, yeah, it's like I guess having stuff like that in your past where you've had to go through and endure in order to make a living, when you have to like do cold calls or you have to call
Easy.
leads, you're like, dude, I'm in an air conditioned room and I'm just dialing a
Yeah.
phone.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Super, super easy.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like people that are in sales, they need to do some kind of, and if they want to be successful, in order to as a precursor, is to do a difficult job like that so
Hmm.
that you have a baseline, you
Hmm.
have something to compare it to.
I agree. I agree.
So
Yeah.
that I was actually talking to another podcast guest, and he was like, hey, for an entrepreneur, you should be a waiter at least one time in your life, for a period of time,
Hmm.
because it teaches you how to talk to people and how to talk to strangers, and like you don't get paid anything. You gotta
Hmm.
work off of like basically tips, and if you suck, you're gonna find it real fast, and it's gonna teach you how to get better. It's just like working off of commissions or
Correct.
working off of 1099. But then also he's like, secondly, you need to be able to take a punch in the face. You got to
Hmm.
get punched in the face and
Yeah.
like keep going forward. He was like,
Correct.
you can do those two things, you can be an entrepreneur. Like
Pretty
I,
much.
I, I would add to it. I would add to it doing a difficult job, like a labor
Hmm.
intensive job.
Yeah. You really appreciate the work.
Yeah,
Really
abs-
appreciate it.
absolutely, absolutely. So you got your first sale, 90 days. How'd that feel? What was that like, bro?
Oh man, it was amazing. It was
Yeah,
amazing, amazing feeling. Yeah, amazing feeling just to be able to close a deal and get a check, and it's just it's just it's you appreciate. You just learn to appreciate the work, the money and everything like that. Because remember, like I was making, I don't know, I don't even remember to be honest with you, but it was like $1 a day or something like that, or whatever I made in there, uh, $1.50 or something like that,
yeah.
maybe 20, $30 a month, right? So from to go from that to this, it was like it was a lot of just full of gratitude.
Yeah. No, I bet massive difference, you know.
Hmm.
So a lot of salespeople, I have a feeling this is you did not fall in this trap, but a lot of salespeople, when they get that commission, that first commission, they're like, "I'm rich," and then they go, and then they have that roller coaster of like,
Of
I'm rich.
course.
I'm gonna go on vacation. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And then they don't have any money. And then they're like grinding to get that money. And they're about down in the dumps. And then they make that commission. They're like, oh, I'm rich. And then it's this constant kind of roller coaster until you can realize like you got to stay even keel. You can't get excited. Like you're gonna get paid. You need to save that. That goes to the business. Like you pay yourself as little as possible, and it's gonna be a little bit of
Mhm.
grind. Like it seems like you're getting paid a lot, but you're really not. Like you're keeping that in the business. You're keeping that to the
Correct.
side in order to fund future
Correct.
deals and acquiring more clients, etc.
Correct.
So did you have that transition period, or were you just like, dude, I'm not spending any of this?
No, so I started making more money or earning more money when I started changing. When I started changing as a person.
Mhm.
And but I did go to those stages, but that was the stages when I was out drinking, I was out partying, I was out just like being a kid because remember I was still 18 in
Yeah,
my head, right?
yeah,
So I wasn't a guy that was like buying a Rolex and all that stuff. Like I wasn't really too into the materialistic stuff, but I did spend more money than I made. Like you have to at some point. Like it's just if you're like you have to go through
in
that. Like
sales, yeah.
you just have to. Like I don't care what anyone says. Like you're like, all right, I got another check. I got a couple more in escrow, and you're like, all right, you're already counting the money, and then like boom, they get canceled, right? But it started to it started it just it really changed when I started really changing as a
Yeah,
person. Stop drinking, stop partying, start doing all this stuff that just wasn't serving me.
yeah,
And then I started becoming more, business conscious of what I needed to do to really do this right and keep it.
yeah,
And it was off and on, like it was off and on for years because I would, you know, do really well, and then there's months I didn't do well, but it was just like I was never I was always still battling stuff within myself, right? Like I still had to go through a lot at where at the age I was at and to do the things I needed to do and so it's just it's all part of the journey is what I would say. All part of the
yeah.
journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I know what that's like. My first full year. Well, no, no, no. My second full year in insurance. My first year in insurance that I actually had success, where I started like making money. Um, I de- I deposited I think $360,000 a year in the first year I'd ever deposited anything over $100,000 over
Uh-huh.
six figures. Um, and I spent probably I'd say 60 to $70,000 on leads. And
Wow.
then the rest of it was between like my bills, making sure everything was paid, paying down debt. But bro, I partied a lot. I probably spent
Yeah.
$100,000 on like liquor, bottle service, stupid shit like
You have to. You
and I
have to.
shouldn't
Yeah.
have. And I shouldn't have, you know? So,
We all have to. You have to go through it. Like you have to. Um, it's just it makes you appreciate a lot more.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. What was the catalyst that got you to change as a person?
A few different things, right? It's that I understood that being in business, it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So if I wanted to be successful in business, I had to
I
be
tell people
successful
that
as a
all the
person.
time. I tell my team that all the time. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
And it's an honest truth, right? Like I had a desire to do to be to be to do what I wanted to do in my life. Like I got a second chance, and so like why am I gonna like ruin it, ruin the second chance, second opportunity? And so it was because of mentors and the readings and everything like that, and coaches that I had that really started to change that outlook. And I desire to have a family and to raise a family and be married and what I always say is like to do things the right way. Because I just do things the right way. Like I wanted to have a family. I never know how a family was. I didn't know, like I just wanted to do everything the right way. And I always told myself if God gave me a second chance at this, I would do it the right way. and he did.
Yeah, that's awesome. How old's your daughter?
2.
2. That's a fantastic age, bro.
Hmm.
That's a great age. What's her name?
It's a beautiful Mila.
Mila.
Mila
It's a
Navarro.
beautiful
Yeah.
name. That's a beautiful name, man.
Yeah. So she's literally my twin.
Yeah.
So my wife's not too happy, but she literally looks identical, like literally like me with just long hair.
That's like, dude, that's literally my oldest daughter, my
Ah,
oldest. She looks just like me, which I feel bad because I am not an attractive female. Well, I
exactly.
love you. I
Yeah,
love you, Lily. You're beautiful.
y-
But but
I get it. I get
dude,
it.
I could have created her myself.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like she looks that much like me. So
Same.
people see us together, they're like, "Oh man, that's your daughter." It's like, yeah, she doesn't look
Exactly.
anything like my
Ex-
ex-wife. Nothing like
e-
her. That's crazy.
exactly. Yeah. No, it's they usually say the daughters look like the father. So
Yeah. Well,
you
my
know.
second daughter, she looks a lot like my ex-wife. Like I
Okay.
was actually they live in Florida and
Okay.
in Tampa, and I go
Okay.
visit all the time. So like I'm literally going in a week. I'm gonna go stay because it's their spring break, and I'm gonna go stay with them at the house. And so I when I go, we stay all together. Like we have a very
Uh
good
huh.
relationship. And my mom knew I was visiting, and so my mom was sending me old pictures of high school, and she had an old picture of my ex-wife when she
Hmm.
was in ROTC in JROTC.
Hmm.
And so there's a picture of her that's kind of faded, but dude, I saw that picture and I was like,
Yeah,
it's
my
been so
daughter.
long.
Yeah.
It looked like Michaela, looked like my daughter
Wow.
Michaela, and my
Wow.
Michaela is about to go into high school. And so I was like, holy crap, this looks like Michaela
Hmm. Hmm.
when
Hmm.
she was younger. I was like, I never realized it. I never realized how like just how much she looked like her. So yeah, Michaela looks very much like my ex-wife. So
Yes.
so anywho, so you start going through and improving yourself and being the best version of yourself, right? And you start focusing on your business, focusing on your personal life. Isn't it crazy? I feel like this is just a sales thing. I feel like when you're in sales, like you have to get into personal development. Like if you want to be
100%.
successful, eventually
Correct.
you have to.
Correct.
It's just
100%.
it's because it's all about you. It's like
Yep.
it's all
That's
on you, bro.
exactly. Exactly. No, I agree 100%.
You have to
100%.
eventually, if you want to be successful, if you want to hit the top levels, you can't, and you can't like kind of, dick around with it. If you want
Hmm.
to be the best, you're going to eventually get into some kind of personal development. You're going to be reading some Zig Ziglar eventually, you know,
Exactly.
Tony Robbins, it's all the stuff.
You
Like
have
it's
to.
going to happen.
Yeah, you have to have you have to have a huge level of success. You have to.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for all of you listening, take that away. That is a
Hmm.
guarantee. Like you got to do it. So, um, what are your top 3 books that you would recommend to a sales professional, entrepreneur?
For sales, well, number one is like Think and Grow Rich.
I knew you guys. I knew that was going
Yeah,
to be the
Think and
first
Grow
one.
got to. Yeah, you have to. I mean,
I would agree.
first,
I would agree.
it's always like two things, right? It's always like you can work really hard or like have the skill set, but you don't have the mindset, or you have the mindset, you don't have the skill set. So it kind of comes hand in hand, right? When you're doing sales, you have to have the skill set and the mindset.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, I also like my like the powers of subconscious mind as well. Like
Mhm.
that's a really good one. But for sales, I mean, I think it's always like classic is be how to win friends and influence people.
Influence people. That's a
That's a good
really good one.
sales. Yeah, that's a good sales book. Um, but a lot of it, I like a lot of mindset stuff. Just to work. A lot of like the older stuff is what outwitting the devil and Napoleon Hill. Like it's just another good
How is
one.
Outwitting the Devil? I still haven't read that yet. I've heard it. A lot of people
Amazing.
recommend
It's
it.
amazing. Really good. Really
I
good.
need to. I just need to read it eventually. Like I just need to
Yeah,
pick it up.
you gotta. Yeah, you just gotta get it on audio and listen to, it, or on the bike or something, treadmill or whatever. It's a
Yeah.
really, really good book.
Yeah.
So those are my definitely top books.
Um, I would say, I would say, Think and Grow Rich. I would say The
Hmm.
Magic of Thinking Big. by David Schwartz. And then for skill set, dude, How to Win Friends and Influence People is a really good one. But for sales, I actually like Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
By Chris.
It's
Yeah,
such a
good one.
good
Yeah,
That's such a good negotiation and sales book for sales tactics.
yeah, good one. I like that one too.
Yeah,
Good one.
that's such a good one. But dude, How to Win Friends is also a fantastic. Like, it's just timeless, right?
Mhm.
Fantastic, man. So Danny, I want to respect your time. What if anyone sees this and they're like, man, I want to connect with Danny because his story touched me, which your story is touched me, and I know it's going to touch a lot of people, and they want to connect with you or learn more, or see what else you're doing or what you're up to. What's the best way to connect with you?
Instagram. My handle is which is underscore and then my name, Danny Navarro. That's the best way to get in contact with me.
Okay.
The easiest and fastest way.
I'll be connecting with you today as soon as we get off of here.
Mhm.
This is a question I ask every single one of my guests, and the question is, you have the opportunity to sit with, learn from, spend time with, break bread with 3 individuals, anyone in history, living or deceased. Who would those 3 be, and why?
Hmm. First one that just came off the top of my head is Nelson Mandela.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Just because like what he conquered from doing all the his long prison sentence to becoming the president, right? That would be definitely my top one. That's a good question. My second one, huh? No one has ever asked me that question. If shoot,
It is
who
a
would
good
it be?
question because
It's a
it
good
also
question.
tells
Yeah.
me where your interests lie. Like what
Where's
kind of
your
people you
interest in
want to
that? Yeah,
sit with.
yeah, yeah. I think that would be one for sure. The second one, I don't know. I would want to say like Warren Buffett, for like real estate, like
For real estate investing.
investments,
Mhm.
investment. And the third one, uh, Queen Mary. Is that her name? Mary the nun,
You talking about Mother Teresa?
Mother Teresa.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. There you go.
Mother Teresa?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a good
yeah,
one
yeah,
too.
yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
just little different areas like real
Yeah.
estate, business, and then just like leadership, and then just her as a human being.
Yeah. No, she's
Mm,
definitely impacted Mother Teresa, both
very.
Mother Teresa and like there's a lot of different popes
Mm,
that have just impacted a lot of people, right? And
correct.
but not just in a religious sense, but just in like a spiritual, I guess, sense. And just being
Correct.
good
Correct.
being good people and like setting a good example. So I love all those. That's fantastic. Uh, Danny, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast, the Be the Difference podcast. For those of you watching, do me a favor. I need you to share this content because Danny's story is so impactful and there's other people that need to hear it. There are people right now that are probably in prison or going to prison, or they feel their life is in a place where they could potentially end up there if they don't make a change. And it's key to understand that no matter how far you fall, you can always rise to the level that you want to rise to, and you can always change and make it become that difference in the world and in somebody else's life. And so by you sharing this, you might impact another person. It takes about 60 seconds just to rate, review, subscribe, share the content with somebody, just give it out to somebody that might be inspired by it or provide some kind of value by listening to it. And it means the world to Danny and I. This has been the Be the Difference podcast. I'm your host, Greg Birch. Until next time, we'll see you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.